Hello. So the pond is mostly done. This is pretty much the final stage. As you can tell, if you remember in the previous videos, a lot of this area all through here was very hilly, lots of big rises, and it was fairly steep. You probably can't really tell much, but most of this on the edge was greatly built up. Where I'm standing now is probably about 5 feet lower than it is now. And right over here, kind of where this equipment is, again, that's probably raised up 5 or 6 feet at least right here. This used to be kind of a big gully in a sense right here, very major low spot. So a lot of that was built up, and then obviously the pond was dug out as well. And so what they did is they evened out a lot of this area and tried to get it where as the water flows from basically all over the property, it flows from where I'm standing, from this side over here on the right, and from the back side in, and basically ends up going out the woods. And that's kind of the natural flow. But to prevent sediment and leaves and things like that from just continually washing into the pond, what we did was we made a little berm all the way around the outside. This is one of the things that they haven't quite finished yet. They're basically going to run this over and flatten it out a little more, pack it down. There'll still be a slight berm that goes all the way around the edges. And then just inside of that berm, between it and the pond, is a fairly flat space that at times leans toward the pond and at times leans away from the pond, depending on where it's at. But the whole point is to make a relatively flat space here on the other side of a berm here, and that way as water flows down the hill, it hits this berm and either continues to flow down in the natural course out into the woods, or it hits here, stops, and then slowly seeps over and in. All of this will be planted with probably clover and other cover crops, things good for pollinators, that kind of stuff, as well as this path. We'll have some grasses, and I'll probably do some small bushes. I thought of even doing berry bushes kind of all along the berm. Thought that might be nice, but at the same time, I don't want to put too many producing things right here where basically all the spoils wash into the pond and might cause some issues in the future, so we'll see. But there'll be, at a minimum, clover, grasses, that kind of stuff on there. And so you can see the pond ended up being, it ended up a little bigger than expected, a different shape than expected, but it just went the way that kind of naturally seemed to go as they started digging. The sides are slanted, not too much. Basically where you see the water is all pretty deep. It's probably a little over 10 feet deep total. And then on this one side here in the front, it kind of ramps up and out. The idea was relatively easy access for the animals and to create shallow spots and deep spots for the fish and the different things that are going to come in and live. We've got a little bit, you can kind of see slightly as you look across here, there's kind of a little bit of a shelf that's about a foot down, or a place where I can easily dig a little shelf there. So we'll be planting plants along the edges there, and that'll really help build the ecosystem as well. And then this gray stuff here, and there's more of it that's on the walls, but it's kind of gotten wet, it's soaked in, it's blended with the dirt. This is all the clay, the bentonite clay, that really seals it off and make sure that it retains the water really well. And it looks like it's doing that already. We've had one weekend of rain and it has held really well since that time. So that's really nice. I also want to let the pigs in and let them completely seal it off, especially as it gets fuller, they can seal it off at each level. But the problem is that obviously there's no fence along the woods there. So that's my next project. The fence ends right up here, and then we took out all the old fencing and, as I mentioned before, totally rebuilt and built up that area over there. So I've got to finish the fence, then I can let the pigs in here, let them help seal this off completely, and we should be all set. So I'll give you an update as it finishes up, but that's where we stand right now.